What a horrible way to start my first YouTube video. I just filmed the entire 11 minutes. My microphone was off. So, I'm gonna say everything again really quickly. But basically, hi, my name's Tina. I'm on TikTok under Tina Melina. I started my TikTok account because I was rebinding books. I also have an Etsy store called Tina Melina Books where I sell all my rebinds. And my plan for this YouTube channel is basically just making videos of everything that I really do because I rebind books, bind fan fictions sometimes. I do a lot of sewing. Specifically this year, I have done a lot of sewing. But most importantly, I want to make my wedding dress. I always knew that I wanted to make my own wedding dress just because I knew that I would never be able to really get a dress in a reasonable price range from like a boutique. But sometimes I just look at something and I'm like, I wonder if I could make that myself. Weirdly enough, I feel like I could. I feel like I'm gonna struggle a lot. I feel like I might cry. But I feel like I should be able to make what I want to make. So basically, this is a part one of I don't know how many parts of me making my wedding dress. I always knew that I wanted it to be a corset. It's going to be a strapless corset, and then it's going to be a big skirt, big gathered skirt. I saw a couple of dresses that had like nice, like either ruffling or ruching along the neckline, like all along the top of the corset basically. I kind of knew what I wanted. I'm going to show a couple of dresses on the screen of what I had saved. But then a couple of months ago or a month ago, I'm not really sure, an Instagram account that I'm going to share the name of, that I was following already because of the gorgeous, gorgeous corsets that they make, made a wedding dress. And I looked at it and I gasped and I was like, that's what I want. This is the dress. And basically the only difference about what I want and how this dress looks like is that the curves of the neckline and like how spiky the bottom of the corset is a bit too much. I want to make those curves a bit softer. But other than that, that is what I want. Whenever they post photos of like what it looks like from the side, from the back, I just save them all and I zoom in on them and I look at them. I even messaged them and they replied to me very kindly. I saw that the it looks like the front of the dress is the corset is separate from the skirt, but in the back it looks connected, and they did confirm that they do have an underlay on the corset that's connected to the skirt on the back. I have already made the decision that I will make my corset fully separate from my skirt, just because I'm also planning to make like a mini skirt that I can then change into. So, in the last 2 days, I have no footage of anything, but in the last 2 days, what I have basically done is I have taken a very plain corset pattern that I bought. I made it in my size. I only did like one layer, no boning. I put it on. I then drew on top of it with like a water soluble marker what I want to adjust. So I made the curve of the neckline a bit deeper. I made the bottom of the corset a bit like narrower. I drew all that, took the corset off. I cut out the pieces that I didn't want, and then I basically took a seam ripper and I seam ripped every single part. And then I took all those parts and I traced them on a paper, basically made a new pattern. And then I made a whole new corset. I already have the top layer, like the outside layer, and I have the bottom layer, which I also put interfacing on. Technically, the last thing that I need to do now is put boning into the corset before I can like try it on and see what it's like. But there's a very important part, and the part is the gathered neckline. And I spent all day yesterday trying to figure it out. I hate gathering with a gathering stitch. No matter what I do, I will always get the thread stuck or the thread will just straight up snap. So I just told myself I don't think it's safe for me to do that. especially when I'm actually going to be making the dress. I don't want to like make extra holes in my fabric and anything. So I saw this girl on TikTok post about a ruffler foot, and I was like, what the hell is that? This is the ruffler foot. It looks scary, but it works. I have done a lot of like testing on just strips of fabric, and basically, this is like my final test. This is how I basically liked how often it gathers, how small the gathers are. Obviously, I did it on both sides to get this like gathered piece. I then calculated, I measured how much, for example, the front strip of my fabric is, and then I multiplied it by how much more fabric I need, because obviously you're gonna need like, I think I need 3.46 times the amount of fabric than what the fabric actually is, like the final piece. Am I making sense? I basically did a first trial yesterday, but I already know what mistakes I've done, and I'm gonna try and fix that today by doing another version of it that will hopefully look better, because this is what I'm having. So this is like the strip that would go on my neckline here. It's not gathered enough, and I know why. It's because the strip that I made to make this piece, I made it too wide, which means that the top and bottom, like the gathering, was too far away from each other, and it basically allowed the fabric to like stretch a lot. I don't know if that's making any sense, but to me it does. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take another strip of fabric, but instead of it being 10 centimeters wide, which is what I did yesterday, it looked like I basically made this piece. This is 10 centimeters, right? Now, you can already see that this looks a lot different from this. This is way more gathered than this, because this strip is a lot smaller. Like, it makes sense, right? But it kind of looks like what I want it to look, so I'm like really excited. I'm gonna make another strip, and I'm gonna make it so it's not 10 centimeters like this. I'm gonna make it maybe 8. If we manage to actually make that, then I can do the two side parts of like the part that goes from here under my armpit all the way to my back on both sides, and then we can try and like actually assemble the corset and then add the boning. Basically, this is my corset so far. These two pieces that are basically supposed to be going like from here further out there, because then there's going to be one of these there as well. And same on the other side. And then I already made this piece, which I was trying to do the ruching, but basically what happens is it's supposed to go like this. As I said, this is too wide, so I'm going to cut it down to maybe like an 8 or 7.5, just to see if I can get a better gathering. And then I also need to remake this piece of the pattern, which is the front neckline, because I had that piece, but I made that first attempt that I'm not liking that much. So I'm going to cut this part out again. Then I'm going to cut this down, use a ruffler foot, see how it looks connected to that piece, and see if it is any better. You're going to need one of these, and you're going to loosen this. You're going to press that thing over there to take off this part, and this part comes off as well. And then you're going to take your ruffler foot. This part, this is where that screw is going to slide into, and then this part is going to go on the top thing that's like hanging off there. So like that and like that. So now it's on, and then you take the screwy thing and you basically just tighten the screw until the thing kind of falls into its place. This lever up here, or whatever you want to call it, it moves like that. It basically tells you how, after how many stitches do you want it to gather. Now I have it on number 1, which means that every single stitch will gather. You can set it to 6, which means that every 6th stitch it will gather, every 12. And then there's this star. I don't know what that means. We put this piece of fabric through and we push it all the way so that we can see where the needle will go down so that it gets to catch the fabric. Put the thing down. We're doing straight stitch. I haven't changed anything on my machine, so it's just like the standard stitch. and we're gonna start, and I'm gonna do this very slowly because I realize that if I go too fast, it's going so fast and it's so chaotic that like the fabric can like move sideways or something, and then I end up not getting the edge of the fabric in, which means that I'm skipping a stitch. So this is what it looks like when one side is ruffled. Is this better? Now we're going to try and pin it to it basically. Right, so I have it pinned. So now I'm going to sew along this entire bottom with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. I'm going to do it from this side. Right, so I did do a mistake because I was supposed to turn it out and iron it and then do the stitch. So this was inside, this was hidden. I forgot to do that. I didn't do it that way, but I'm just ironing it in for now to just have a look, and I think it looks better. I'm not sure. I still don't like that I'm having this like angle, and I wonder if that's because I'm doing a bias tape. I just need to really practice on this more, so it will probably even help me making the other 2 pieces for now, and then I'll get back once I have the whole front piece and I'm gonna be attaching it to the sides. What I'm gonna do now is basically I have this is the top layer of the corset. Now this is now a 1 piece of the gathered fabric, and then I'm gonna sandwich the wrong facing up, correct facing in, and I'm basically gonna sandwich it all and make a really like thin stitch all along, but I'm gonna like pin it really properly. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm gonna make a thin stitch now on this so that when I do the bottom layer on top, this is not going to move and it's just going to stay in place. Yeah, this is kind of exciting now because I feel like I can start to see the vision really. So now we're going to take this layer, wrong side facing up, and we're going to pin that to the corset. Okay, so I'm way too excited about this. It has a lot of mistakes, but the fact that I actually got to this. So I have the thing all along. I have an issue on both sides. On one side I have way too much fabric, on the other there was not enough like gathering, and I have a bit of this. Don't care. This is literally the first draft. Pretty much. I'm a bit shocked. I don't know what this is gonna look like on me. I think right now what I need to do is boning, which is scary. Okay, well, I feel like for first proper try, not that bad. Obviously there's the ends there because they're not really connected to the last section where it's tied. I'm thinking that maybe the bits in the back need to be taken in a little smaller so there's actually a gap, you know, because in case I lose weight and I want to like really cinch myself in, I can't really do it anymore because like it won't go anymore. It's connected, the sides are connected now. But I mean, maybe I could like put pads in or something, like pad myself. You look into that. But yeah, I feel like for first try, this is kind of cool. I have a lot to learn about this specifically. I feel like there's still a bit of space. But yeah, other than that, kind of happy, kind of excited. I think that's it for part 1. I think I'm gonna take notes, chill, sew other things that I find relaxing, and then I will get back to this at a later point to do iteration number 2. That's it for this week. Bye!